to David there in the back. You can ask him all the Sun Devil questions you ever had, okay? He will help you on that, and we'll get you wings, okay?
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
You got it.
If memory serves me correctly, LSU beat Oklahoma in either the Bowl, Nick Saban, and was the BCS national champions, but were not voted number one in the AP poll. I think that was the only time that the AP national champion was not the BCS champion, because the BCS almost always went hand in hand with, but did not officially acknowledge as. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the BCS champion was not the national championship de facto, even though every year that the BCS champion was the AP champion, except that one year.
I'm totally with you on this. Would you like a hot take since we have a minute before?
Well, I got all sorts of stuff to talk about what you were talking about in the first segment, but sure, I would like your hot take first.
Well, before we get to Jake Mayer, who's going to join us here in about 15 minutes or so, maybe a little less than that. Here's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
No one in the history of FBS college football has ever won a national championship. Ever. No one's ever done it. You know why? Because there is no such thing. These morons voting about this garbage for the last 150 years and this stupid 2-game dumb thing that we got now with 4 teams. Let me ask you this. Is it possible that Alabama is the best team in the country?
Yes, it's possible that they are.
And they aren't going to be in the tournament, okay?
Oh, haven't you been following the bias attached to this thing?
Oh.
There's going to be a way that Alabama gets into the tournament.
Now, see, here's where we go full conspiracy theory.
There's no conspiracy theory. It's called money. This is America.
If it was about money, or 12 or 16 teams in the postseason.
But then there's always the hierarchy that doesn't want to be disrupted. What if my hot take was, I think the most flawed system college football's ever had is the current system. I thought
that was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
Great one. I love that take. It's wrong, but I love the take on it. The most flawed system are all the systems. This is the closest one. You know what this is?
The BCS was a great system.
A great system in terms of picking somebody, in terms of getting teams.
In terms of matching up the 2 best teams to play for the national championship. The 2 best teams in the country are not going to play for the national championship unless it's Clemson and Alabama under the current format. There can be upsets. And I think that if you're going to have a tournament with upsets, we agree on this, that you need to have a tournament full of upsets. You need to have 16 teams.
Postseason, 12 at least.
Having
12 at least.
Having one extra game to derail your 2 best teams is stupid.
Having LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia, they should all be in line for a bye right now. That's what they should be in line for, not to play in some stupid 4-team exclusive little thing that's over here on the side while Alabama and Oregon and Utah, Minnesota and Penn State and Oklahoma and Florida are all sitting there wondering what's going on, and Auburn and everybody else. Okay? It's so stupid that you think you got such a great regular season. And this was the argument that everybody makes, utterly asinine. The regular season is eliminating your best teams from doing anything that matters in a quote postseason. Enough with this. You're all morons. What did you want to tell me about the possibility of both Montana and Montana State losing this weekend to Till Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana?
You were going over all the various scenarios, and I, as a voter in the FCS Stats Top 25 poll, have really been poring over this, different scenarios, and you can always say, well, it's going to depend on what the Montana and Montana State do as well as what the rest of the country does, but given the opponents that each school has left, I think that what happens around the rest of the country is almost inconsequential.
Totally agree.
And so here's my scenarios, and I don't think you could take this to the bank 100%, but I think this is very close to accurate. If Montana and Montana State each win this weekend, they're in the playoffs, and then
Montana's in, right? They're in.
Montana's in.
Okay,
Montana's in the playoffs.
But if they both win, of course, they're both in.
If they both win this weekend,
yes,
then that's where the rest of the country comes in. Because if they both win this weekend and then Montana State wins the rivalry game, then I think that depending on what happens around the rest of the country, the Cats get a seed and the Grizz might still get a seed.
Still could, yes.
As the loser.
Yes.
Because that would put both schools at 9-3.
Yes.
That scenario, I think that they both could be seeds, but I think they would be like the 6 and the 8 or like the 5 and the 7. They're not getting a top 4 seed, either squad. I think the ceiling for the Cats
is 5.
Is 5.
Yeah.
If they both win this weekend and the Grizz win, I think the Cats have if the Cats win this weekend, I think it gives them a 90% chance of getting in the playoffs, not 100. You think 100?
I think it's 100.
I think it's 100%. A 95% chance. I think that there's a slim scenario where they could get left out. I don't think it'll happen. That's another factor where I think that Southeast Missouri State needs to win the Ohio Valley. That's Montana State's best win. They need to win the Ohio Valley. If they do, I think that Montana State, if they win this weekend, are in no matter what. But if, say, they both win this weekend and Montana wins the rivalry game, Montana gets the 3 or the 4 seed. And Montana State plays a home game, but it's not going to be like last year where it's against Incarnate Word and you got to go play North Dakota State in the next round. I think it would more be like a home game against, say, the 4th team out of the Ohio Valley or the Missouri Valley, like an Illinois State or Northern Iowa, whoever finishes above there. So a good opponent. If it was a Northern Iowa,
it could be South Dakota State the way
sure.
they lose their quarterback,
right,
and now they've lost a couple.
It might be one of those 3 teams, or perhaps the second team out of the Southland. If it's the second team out of Southland, that team will come to Bozeman. If it was Northern Iowa or South Dakota State, though, you're going to get into a bidding war, and those 2 teams would probably outbid Montana State. And that'd be a home game, and then the winner would probably, I mean, who knows, but maybe go play either a Weber State or a Montana in the round of 16. If the Grizz lose this weekend and the Cats win this weekend, then I still think even if the Grizz lost Cat Grizz, they'd be in, but they'd be the one playing in the first round, and the Cats could be playing for a bye. And on the flip side of that, say the Grizz lose this weekend, the Cats win this weekend, and then the Grizz win Cat Grizz, and then I think that they're both playing in the first round. And I think that if the Grizz win this weekend and lose next weekend, I still think they could get a seed as well. So I think that there's a lot of different scenarios, but I do think that if the Cats were to lose both, they're out.
You're probably right. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break on the other side. Jake Mayer, the quarterback of the UC Davis Aggies, hosting the Montana State Bobcats. Huge game for both teams. He's going to be with us live right after this.
Here at Florence Coffee Company, we developed our medium roast coffee beans to make consistently smooth and delicious coffee drinks. You can take the beans home yourself so you can have Florence coffee anytime. Pick up a pound of whole bean or ground for only $12. Better yet, if you bring your own cup, we'll give you a 12-ounce strip coffee free when you buy your coffee beans. Come to any Florence Coffee location or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99% and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes in a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup with financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Get to Kurtz Polaris on Saturday, December 7th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for Kurt's 7th annual Snow Day. This is the biggest sale of the year, one day only, Saturday, December 7th at Kurtz Polaris in Missoula. Kurt's 7th annual Snow Day. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Designed to save lives and prevent crashes, the Montana Department of Transportation is busy designing the Stevensville Safety Improvements Project on Highway 269, one of Montana's most dangerous highways. The community is warmly invited to ask questions, share thoughts, and meet the design team, as they will be working for Morningstar Caffeine and Cuisine in Stevie from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. on Thursday, November 14th, 21st, and December 5th. Call the project hotline for more details at 406-207-4484. You've been auditioning at the dinner table for years. Are you finally ready to hit the stage? Arts Missoula and ASUM are teaming up again to showcase the best of the region's high school talent at First Night Spotlight. Audition at Hellgate or Big Sky after school on December 2nd and 5th, respectively. Or for Sentinel, Willard, and surrounding schools, tryouts will be held 11:30 a.m. Saturday, December 7th at the UC Theater. The best of the best will be invited to perform live on New Year's Eve. To sign up for First Night Spotlight tryouts, go to artsmissoula.org.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Nobody knows who Jack White is. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And Saturday, December 7th, Kurt's 7th annual snow day. One day only. It is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Missoula store. The biggest sale of the entire year. You're not going to believe the deals you get there. Mark your calendars now. One day only, Kurtz Polaris, December 7th. Jake Mayer going to join us here in just a moment. He's the quarterback of the UC Davis Aggies. UC Davis hosting Montana State. We are in Montana. I think people are aware of that. We cover Montana State a lot. Obviously, it's also worth noting and looking at this through the lens of the other teams that are involved. Because, and I talked about this off the top, but this is, UC Davis 5-5. They've had a very tough schedule. They played an FBS team. They played North Dakota State, by the way, to like a score. A really good football game.
26-17 the final.
They played the Grizz, who are now number 5 in the nation. They are on the road at North Dakota, who was ranked. So they're 5-5. At least 4 of those losses are against really, really good teams.
Every loss. I mean, they've lost to 4 top 10 FCS teams and Cal.
Okay.
They've lost to 1.
Well, North Dakota's not top 10.
Well, you're right. North Dakota fell out of the top 25 this week, which I think is actually incorrect. I think the North Dakota should be a top 25 team given their wins. But here's the thing. The way that the FCS rolls and the way that the schedules roll out and stuff, sometimes you make your wins not good wins. In other words, if the Cats beat UC Davis, that means UC Davis can be a 500 team at best this year.
Right.
And probably more like 5-7. So it looks like it's not a good win, but that's a good win.
It is a good win.
It's number 4 team in the country coming in the year.
Totally. And UC Davis, though, they're looking at this from their angle. They've played a very, very tough schedule. If they win the next 2 weeks against 2 top 10 opponents in Montana State and Sacramento State, they will argue to the heavens and with a very valid argument that they should be in. So this is big time for them. Jeff Choate, he knows he's going up against a really good team with a really good quarterback. Here he is talking about Jake Mayer from earlier this week.
They've got a good thing going, but it starts primarily on offense with number 15. I mean, returning All-American and deservedly slow. So, I mean, this kid's fun to watch. We didn't play UC Davis last year, but I got a chance to watch him on film a bunch. And he's a very accurate passer. He can throw from a variety of arm slots, a variety of platforms, meaning he doesn't have to have his feet necessarily set underneath him all the time to be able to throw accurately, and that makes him dangerous. He's an adequate runner. He runs more to throw, but he can hurt you with his feet in scramble situations.
It's interesting when you talk about the arm angle thing, because I don't think enough is made of that very often. People will mention it in passing, but you look at a guy, if I may, like Kyler Murray, who's also this, first-round baseball guy. Well, he looks like it because he can throw on the run, and there's a certain art to having, to moving and throwing the ball and that arm action, but also different platforms, different angles, being able to deliver the ball around bodies and stuff like that. And there's a couple guys in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is great at it. Matt Stafford is great at it. Kyler Murray's really good at it. And Jake Mayer in the Big Sky Conference, he's really, really good. He's 6 feet tall. He's not, overly tall guy who's just going to sit back there and sling it. So he has to move around. I think a lot of teams have tried to come up the middle, get some of that double A gap pressure on him, and he's been forced to sort of figure it out on a little bit, different way sometimes and still be accurate. And for the most part, he's been able to do that. Very impressive.
He was a all-Southern section selection and hit 360 as a senior center fielder at St. Paul High School.
No surprise
in
there.
La Habra, California. So he is a baseball guy.
Right.
I think that translates not only in his arm angles and stuff like that, I think it also translates in his ability to rise to the occasion, his analytic brain. I mean, actually knowing that he's a baseball player, he makes a lot more sense to me now.
Mm-hmm. Totally. He is going to have his hands full, though, with the Montana State defensive line, because that, pressure is the key to any game when you're playing a passing type of football team, which UC Davis is. And UC Davis, by the way, very good running back as well. So they can
that's
go.
The league. Alonzo Gilliam is leading the league in rushing right now. He's the only 1,000-yard back in the conference.
They can do it both ways, but that pressure is going to be always a major point of what this particular Montana State wants to do, and they have the dudes to do it.
Absolutely. And Munchie Filer, they've decided that he's going to redshirt this year, but that doesn't mean he's not available. I expect Munchie Filer to play the next 2 games because he's only played in, I think, 1 game officially, Sac State. And so he's got some games left. What better game to use your senior all-Big Sky corner than this one, if he's healthy enough to go? I'm not sure. He had a little arm surgery, and he played against Sac State and wasn't great. I think a lot of it was rust, but we'll see. But he could be... This could be a game he might be able to go.
Well, we go now to the Range Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in the aforementioned quarterback of the UC Davis Aggies, Jake Mayer. Jake, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Good to be back with you guys.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you back and excited to have you on today heading into this weekend. Obviously, you got a matchup with a top 10 ranked Montana State team. You yourselves, you're at 5-5, but if you look at the schedule that you have played and some of the games, the way they've gone, some very close losses to some really, really good teams. And the last 2 weeks of the season, if you win against a top 10 Montana State team and a top 10 or better Sacramento State team, you guys are going to have a really good resume to put forward to the committee. How big is this game for you guys as you look at it this week?
Well, it's really big because it's the next game on our schedule. So, we're just trying to, put together a good game versus a high-quality opponent. We've, like you mentioned, we've left a couple of them short. And, we're just trying to play well at home. On senior night, it's a big deal for a lot of our guys and our families. So we're just excited to get back out there and play in another meaningful football game in November, which is not something that a lot of teams get to do. So we're really, really excited about it, for sure.
On a personal note, you play a lot of football now at UC Davis. This is your last home game. So what's your emotions like going this game? Does it seem crazy that you're almost approaching your last official guaranteed game at Aggie Stadium?
It is definitely crazy. It went by really fast. I don't consider myself a super emotional guy or someone that, constantly thinks about stuff like that. My family would probably tell you the same thing if you asked them. It means a lot, the time that I spent here at Davis, but, it's not something that, I'm overly upset that, my time here is coming to an end. I'm really grateful for everything that we've done, and it's made me a better player and a better person. And, I'm treating this Saturday like any other Saturday. We have a job to do, and we have to execute a game plan at a high level. And I think if you leave the emotion aspect out of it, at least for now, we'll play better on Saturday. And we definitely don't want to get our emotions running too high and thinking too much about, being the last game in the stadium. We try to avoid doing that, and I definitely feel like I do a pretty good job of doing that.
Well, as you take, a pretty objective approach to this game, Tutel Nuanez, Jake Mayer, the quarterback of the UC Davis Aggies, on with us, and you look at the game just from a football standpoint, there's some guys that play football on the defensive side for Montana State. Bryce Stirk obviously added to the Buchanan Award watch list. Troy Anderson, who's kind of all over the place, coming from that a linebacker spot. Braden Conkle, plenty of others over there. There's a lot of guys out there you got to deal with. What do you see when you look at Montana State from a quarterback's perspective?
I look at a team that plays extremely hard and extremely physical. They don't miss a lot of tackles. They find themselves in the right spot more times than not. And they're just a big, physical, nasty team, and especially on defense. It's another challenge for us. I'd like to think we're pretty battle-tested at this point. It seems like every week we're going against a really, really top-notch defense, and that's why you study so hard, and that's why you game plan, and that's why you spend so many hours in the film room. It's for challenges like this. So, we know what's ahead of us, and I understand the challenge that Montana State presents. But yeah, some of those individual names and players, they are outstanding. They deserve all the credit that they get, and we'll see what happens, on Saturday.
34 games into your UC Davis career, this will be your 35th game. Not one of them has come against Montana State, if I'm looking at the schedule right. So the unbalanced schedule in the Big Sky is a talking point all the time, every year, before the year, after the year.
Absolutely.
But just from a player's perspective, that's kind of crazy, right? That you guys are playing another contending Big Sky team for the first time since you've been at UC Davis.
It definitely is interesting. With the league being so big. And just the quality of talent and programs in the Big Sky is something that I'm sure everybody that follows the Big Sky and is associated with the Big Sky is really proud of. But we don't get to make our schedule, and we just play the teams that are on it, and regardless of how many times we play a certain team over the other is totally out of our control. So, I think in my career I've played Eastern 3 times, and like you said, this is the first time I get to see Montana State. So this is pretty cool if you think about it, just because there's so many challenges out there that you haven't been able to see yet, and fortunately for us, we get to see that on Saturday.
Well, we love when either of the Montana schools play UC Davis, because UC Davis guys are so good on the radio. We always know we're going to get a great interview from you guys. But one guy we had on the show multiple times was Keelan Doss, and it was really
he's awesome.
He's really awesome. He's a great kid, really good, really smart guy. But it was really fun watching Hard Knocks this year because. I mean, Ryan and I are Hard Knocks junkies, and then to have a guy that we've actually sat at the table with and had a sandwich with, and we've shook his hand and talked to him, and now he's on HBO. It was really fun. It was really cool. But did you get a chance to watch Hard Knocks? And if so, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, we watched it every week.
Tuesdays is when it comes out, Jake. Tuesday, 10 Eastern. Not that I would know,
it varies for us, though. Sometimes we have a Monday night practice or a Tuesday night practice during fall camp. Sometimes we're watching that episode on a Thursday, but nonetheless, it was really cool for us. All the things that, just watching Keelan interact and talk and act, and just kind of how his swag is and his ability, and none of it was a surprise to us. I mean, we know Keelan better than a lot of outside viewers, and he is definitely himself, and we tease him every now and then, just because he always has his Keelan moments, and they're really 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 fun. But it was really cool, and just to know that we went to battle with that guy for 2 years, and some guys even more than that. So it means a lot to us. It puts UC Davis on the map in a good light, and he handled it great, and it's really cool to see him thriving now and getting some serious playing time with the Raiders. I think that's says a lot about who he is as a worker and grinding it out.
I had to give Tim Plow, offensive coordinator at UC Davis, a hard time when he made a short appearance on Hard Knocks. I think Keelan came to one of your guys' practices, and they showed Aggie Stadium, and Tim was on there just for 10, 15 seconds. But I said, oh, my gosh, I know a famous guy. I can text a guy that's on Hard Knocks. And Coach Plow said, "Well, I hope I didn't say anything too stupid." So, but do you guys give him a hard time having the fact that he got to have a little 15 seconds worth of fame too?
No, we did not.
He's the OC. You bite your tongue. You just put your head down and go to work.
Yeah, to be honest with you, if I wanted to, I probably could have. But there's a lot of young guys out there that don't want to go down that route and tease the offensive coordinator. But he's really proud of Keelan, obviously, and that means a lot to him for him to come back and visit us, and that I'm sure he'd tell you the same if you asked him.
Jake Maier joining us. He's the quarterback for the UC Davis Aggies. UC Davis playing Montana State, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Mountain kickoff of that game on SWX Montana television if you're looking for it. And we'll get you out of here on this, Jake. Senior night. I got to think win, lose, or draw, like it's your call where you and the family are eating dinner in Davis, California. Where are you going? What are you looking for on Saturday night when a late night kind of meal after a late game? Are you going to get out there and find a buffet, or what's going to go on?
Well, for one, we're going to have a party of 25, 30.
Yeah.
So we got to go somewhere that can accommodate that. To be honest with you, after a home game, Davis is so packed. It's such a small town, and everybody that's at the game is going to the, top 2 or 3 places to eat in Davis for that night. And my family likes to just go to, a little town just outside of Davis. And, last couple of weekends, we went to BJ's. We've been to Olive Garden once.
Now, does BJ's, do they have like a all-you-can-eat Sunday ice cream sundae bar in that place?
I'm not sure. I know they have the position, though, that everybody's a big fan of.
Okay.
And, we'll share pizzas, maybe burgers or, wings and mozzarella sticks.
That's good, though. Get out of town a little bit, right? Give yourself some distance.
Yeah, no doubt. We just, because we're always such a big party that, we don't get to sit, until an hour or so. And by that time, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we just, we get outside of town. No one's really out there anyway. And we get seated pretty quick. So that's usually the goal.
Love it, man. Well, hey, it's been a blast watching you play your whole career, and we're looking forward to a couple more, if not more than that, beyond. So we look forward to this game, especially on Saturday. Your first go against Montana State, going to be a lot of fun. Best of luck to you, all right, my man?
Oh, thank you, guys. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for the coverage you've done of not only myself, but, UC Davis, and you guys are doing things the right way, and it means a lot to us FCS guys. So really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, man. Well, it's been great with us as well, and maybe we get some correspondent thing going on down the line. We'll see what we can work out.
No doubt. Whatever you guys need.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Jake. Jake Maier, quarterback at UC Davis. Good dude. Love talking with him. Give you a little insight on the goings-ons of all of it, but you also get, to me, just a little bit better perspective on the sort of the mentality, really, of the whole program. I mean, this is not just, he's the guy who's going to go out there and be focused and be ready to go, but again, there just is no such thing as next week. Anytime, ever. There's no such thing as a bigger game than any other game, and a lot of programs want to kind of, create that, but can't. And, Dan Hawkins with Jake Maier, they have been able to do that, and more often than not, it's been able to work out for them. We'll take a break. Hour 1 in the books. On the other side, another Wing It Wednesday. Give us a call right now, 329-1899, 329-1899. Coulter has his trivia questions. You want wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, probably where Jake Maier would go at postgame if he was in Missoula, 329-1899, the best wings in the city of Missoula for you. A little trivia right after this.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of gas by idling every single day. Idling for more than 10 seconds actually uses more fuel and produces more emissions than stopping and restarting your engine.
Vehicle exhaust contributes to smog, climate change, and poor air quality, heightening the risk of developing asthma and lung disease. Kids and seniors are especially vulnerable to these health risks.
So next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Brought to you by Missoula in Motion.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The Big Sky Conference out continues as a fixture in the Stats FCS Top 25 poll this week with 4 teams from the league in the top 10. Weber State, they're at number 3 after holding on for a 30-27 win over North Dakota. Montana moved up to number 5 after capturing the Little Brown Stein with a 42-17 win over Idaho. Sacramento State is at 6 after rallying for a 38-34 victory over Northern Arizona. And Montana State, they're back into the top 10 at number 10 following a 45-14 win at Northern Colorado. And Colton, you're right. How does North Dakota drop out of the top 25 after losing to the number 3 team in the land by 3 points? It's crazy.
Women's soccer team fell 2-1 in overtime in the Big Sky semifinals tournament last week to Northern Colorado. But Montana junior Alexa Coyle, UM's leading goal scorer during the season, earned a spot on the all-tournament team nonetheless. Brittany Delridge, who's also a graduate of Missoula Sentinel, also earned all-tournament honors for Eastern Washington.
Montana Cowboy Jess Lockwood, a native of Volberg, is a world champion. Sunday in Las Vegas, the 22-year-old earned his second professional Bull Riders Championship buckle to become the youngest 2-time PBR world champ in history. When he won the 2017 title, he became the youngest world champion and the first Bull Rider from Montana to earn the organization's title. Columbia Falls Bull Rider Matt Triplett finished second.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. In 15 minutes from now, our ESPN Roundtable with former Grizz great running back and Los Angeles Rams 6-year NFL vet Chase Reynolds, who's in studio with us. So we will bring that to you here momentarily. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy. December 7th, one day only. Their 7th annual snow day. Kurtz Polaris, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., one day only. Coulter. It's time for a little Wing It Wednesday. Let's go to the phones. We welcome in Scott to the show. Scott, how are you?
Great. How about yourself?
Well, we're doing okay, Scott. You know, if you could breathe, it makes your life even better. Not one of my strengths, you know, as usual. But happy to have you in here, Scott. Here's the deal. We got 3 questions for you. They're Coulters today. Are you ready for that?
I'll give it my best.
Okay.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot.
Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
All right, Scott, you get 3 questions. If you get 2 of them, you got the wings. You get all 3, you get a shirt. If you need help, I will do my best to be a lifeline. But again, they're Coulter's questions, so who can really know? Coulter, question number 1 for Scott. What do you got?
All right, these are Grizz Weber State themed questions.
All right.
Number 1, when was the last time Montana and Weber State played?
That would be 2017.
Indeed it was.
Scott, very well done.
Montana went down to Weber State, and it was definitely one of the sloppiest games of the Bob Stitt era. They turned the ball over a million times. The final score, 41-27, but that was after 2 late Montana scores. Weber was all over Montana.
Didn't they score like the first 30 points of the game or something like that?
Yes, it was a rout, no doubt. But Scott, you got 1. You still have a lifeline. 2 questions left to go. Number 2, when Weber won in Missoula in 2015, which was Weber State's last trip to Missoula, that was the first time they had won in Missoula since when? How many years had it been? When was the last time they had won before 2015?
Wow. Should know this. I know they beat us. They were like the only team to beat us in Bobby's last 4 years, his first stint.
Yeah,
in the conference.
That game was in Ogden, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I thought. So I may need a lifeline on this one.
Yeah, well, you and me both,
It was
Scott.
the year of my birth.
You're
If
talking
paying
about
attention to anything about me, it was the year of my birth.
I mean, I think 2008 was the year that Weber State beat Montana in Ogden, and before that in Missoula. I mean, 1986, maybe 7. My brother's 87. He rode the bus with Coulter to school, so you know I would go in that range.
Well, let's see. Back then, they played us in the odd years. In '86 was Reed's first year, and we thumped them down there. I know that. Okay, I'm going to go with '86, I guess.
You mean 87?
Yeah. Wait a minute. It'd have to be '87 because I just said they only played us here on the odd years. Then.
There you go.
Okay, '87. Thanks for the help.
Great deduction. 1987, the correct answer. Weber State went from 1987 to 2015 between wins in Washington Grizzly Stadium. Scott, you got yourself some wings. Now, for the shirt.
Okay.
Weber State was coached from 2005 through 2011 by Ron McBride.
Okay.
Jay Hill, Weber State's current head coach, played for Ron McBride at what school? Ron McBride, the longtime head coach of a Rocky Mountain Western school, and Jay Hill played there.
You told me these were going to be Weber State questions.
Well, Ron McBride and Jay Hill both are Weber State.
So when was McBride at Weber?
He was there from 2005 till 2011. He had a 16-year stint at another Western school before then.
Okay.
You got the wings, though. That's the good news. You got 5 seconds here, Scott. Here we go.
I don't have a clue.
The University of Utah.
Oh, in-state.
Just right down the street.
In-state. Over at the Utes. Yeah, cornerback, right? Safety cornerback with Jay Hill.
Defensive back, you got it.
Scott, good news, man. You still got what you came for. The wings, right? Am I right about that? Give your information over there to David in the back. We'll get you set up with the goods from the Desperado Sports Tavern, all right?
All right, thanks.
You got it. Thank you. There you go. Still getting wings. Get the Utah question right. All right, very good. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Want to remind everybody, not this Friday, a week from this Friday, the day before the Grizzly Cat football game, we'll be broadcasting live from Bozeman, the Universal Athletic store there. Also brought to us by Up Top. Looking forward to being there on the Friday before the Cat Grizz football game, and we'll be bringing you more details. We're going to have some fun on that show, so make sure you're keyed into that. If you're looking for us, we're available on the podcast. The podcast available wherever you get your podcast. The Two Tell Nuanez podcast, brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Also, the FCS Speculators podcast, going to be out later on this evening, so you can check that out. Episode 8 of that. But Coulter, it's wintertime. People traveling around. The holidays coming. We're like 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving, for crying out loud. It's coming up on everybody. Also, businesses, parties, whatever it is, and a couple of birthday parties. The Wingate by Wyndham, they got a great facility out there, pool with a slide, great breakfast, rates that don't spike on you all the time. If you need someplace to go, need someplace to stay, or you know people who do, the Wingate by Wyndham is the place to go in Missoula.
Absolutely. You got people coming to town for any of the upcoming Grizz games, or if they're in the playoffs, or if it's a Thanksgiving holiday and you need somewhere for your relatives to stay. Send them out to the Wingate by Wyndham. They have excellent clean rooms, great breakfast, not just continental breakfast. This is actually a real deal good breakfast.
I'm into it.
They got a big pool with a water slide if you got kiddos. That's a good distraction, burn off some energy. They got a great business center too, so if you need to do some work before or after the game, or you got family that's coming that's trying to work remotely, they got you covered there as well. The Wingate by Wyndham, right off of Airport Boulevard. Let the Wingate by Wyndham make you feel at home even when you're not.
Chase Reynolds, subject of our ESPN Roundtable, right after this.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com, or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget, with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Do you know what's at stake after a car accident? Not only will you have to deal with pushy insurance companies, auto repair shops, endless doctor's appointments, and dozens of unforeseen problems, but also your normal day-to-day life. I'm Coulter here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys, and she knows how hard this can be.
That's right. And with all of that, it can seem tempting to take the quick settlement that the insurance company is offering. But I can tell you from experience that it is not going to be a fair amount. I see it all the time where someone has settled with the insurance company and months later realizes that they still have pain from the accident, and now they're having to pay those bills out of their pocket. I don't want that to happen to anyone.
So what should our listeners do, Catherine?
Give us a call and discuss your situation with an attorney. The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocates at 406-640-4444 or go online, montanaadvocates.com. You deserve the Advocates on your side.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. Here's a little sports news for you. The Big Sky Conference continues as a fixture in the Stats FCS Top 25 poll this week, with 4 teams from the league holding in the top 10. Weber State is at number 3 after winning 30-27 over North Dakota. Montana moves up to 5 after capturing the Little Brown Stein in a 42-17 win over Idaho. Sacramento State is back up to number 6 after rallying for a 38-34 victory over Northern Arizona. And Montana State is back at number 10 in the top 10 after a 45-14 win at Northern Colorado.
It's National Signing Day, but not the one that everybody loves. It's National Signing Day for early signees for men's and women's basketball, volleyball, track and field, a variety of different sports. The big news out of Missoula today, Raleigh Wooster officially signs with the Utah State Aggies. He's the reigning Gatorade Montana Player of the Year in men's hoops, and he'll be going to play for a top 20 ranked Aggie squad. He was previously committed for several years to the University of Montana men's basketball team.
Montana Cowboy Jess Lockwood, a native of Volberg, is a world champion. Sunday in Las Vegas, the 22-year-old earned his second professional Bull Riders championship buckle to become the youngest two-time PBR world champ in history. When he won the 2017 title, he became the youngest world champion and the first Bull Rider from Montana to earn the organization's world title. He's one of 6 multi-time PBR world champions. Columbia Falls Bull Rider Matt Triplett, he finished second at the World Finals. Welcome back. Time to talk to somebody who we like a lot around here. Good dude and a great football player. Maybe a great dude and a great football player. How's that? Chase Reynolds. He's the subject of our ESPN Roundtable. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. Saturday, December 7th, it's Kurt's 7th annual snow day. 7th annual snow day at Kurtz Polaris, one day only, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is available for one day. It's the biggest sale of the year, 30% off or more on almost all the items in the entire store. Get your entire holiday checklist taken care of at Kurtz Polaris, Saturday, December 7th. Go check it out. By the way, if you're looking for us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com, that is where you go. You can listen live on the Listen Live tab. It is brought to us by Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. 329-1899, the phone number if you'd like to call in, be part of the show. All guests join us via the Brangish Brothers RV phone line. It's time now for ESPN Roundtable, brought to us by Paradise Falls. Well, welcome in to the ESPN Roundtable, and happy to be joined this week in studio by former University of Montana Grizzly and former St. Louis and then Los Angeles Ram Chase Reynolds. Chase, thanks so much for being here, man. Great to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, we're certainly happy to have you here. There's a ton to get to in your career, or maybe the current state of affairs at the University of Montana. But one place we wanted to start with is the Grizzlies getting ready to host Weber State in a top 5 matchup in the nation this weekend. You had some pretty epic battles with the Weber State Wildcats. Bobby Hauck's first time around, and when you were in school, Weber State, the one team, I believe, in the Big Sky Conference that beat Montana in a conference game. It was at Weber State in like a 4-year stretch. It was the one loss. And then the following year, I believe, in a playoff game, you yourself had a very nice day, 200 and change, thank you very much, and a little bit of retribution. What do you remember, though, about Weber State when you were playing? Because they were maybe in terms of competition, the rival of you guys while you were playing for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, definitely. They were always tough, and I would call it while we were playing back from 08, 09. They were a rival. We played down there in the rain. It was a crappy day, and they ended up beating us down there. And I know we had a chance that year to come back up here in the playoffs and play them. And I remember we had a great offensive plan. I know Sell was kind of running QB, and I remember that game because we basically had options. So when we got to the line of scrimmage, there was 2 options, and Sell had the opportunity to call one or the other. And it was just a good day. I know we were fired up to kind of get back at them. They kind of ruined our perfect season. It was our only loss that year.
Right.
So when they came back up here, Montana, it was, we were all just looking at getting back at them and trying to go. Obviously, it was a playoff game, and yeah, I guess 240 yards later, obviously it was, our line was incredible that year, and I just ran behind him and
then ran in front of him.
Yeah, right. Tried to run around, run through, whatever I could.
Right.
Do, so.
Do you remember anything specifically about those Weber teams? Because they had a couple iconic guys, right? They had Trevin Smith.
Yes.
Who actually passed away last year. I was shocked by that. It was totally out of nowhere.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I do know he was a great running back. I know. I always kind of, watched him run and watched him. He was always a big physical runner. So he was definitely somebody I kind of enjoyed watching on the other side while, not while he was playing us, but obviously.
when you played and you have a guy on that is, another running back, obviously you can't play running backs. You're playing defenses, but is there a I'm going to play better than this guy. I want to prove that I'm better than him because I know he's good or something like that? Or is it just I'm going to do my thing?
I guess I was probably more I'm just going to do my thing. Yeah. I never tried to compare myself. I just always tried to be the best me, I guess, if that makes sense. But I never idolized another runner. I just always tried to do what I could do best and never looked at anybody and thought, wow, I wish I could be them or I wish I could do that. So I think that kind of made me a little bit different than a lot of people. I just, I had a standard for myself, and that's what I needed to accomplish. So
it's interesting. Those two guys, Chase and Trevin, basically dominated the first team All Big Sky, the rushing titles, everything. I mean, I think Trevin Smith is one of only two guys in the history of the Big Sky Conference that's a non-specialist that was first team All League 4 years in a row. Pretty impressive career. Absolutely. And Chase was first team All League 3 years in a row. I know you guys were battling back and forth. Those teams were so memorable, though. I mean, Cam Higgins was kind of one of the first real dual threat guys in the Big Sky. Tim Toon ended up being he ended up being Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last guy drafted in the NFL draft.
Man, I would give my house and both cars to be Mr. Irrelevant. I can tell you that. I can tell you that's right. I mean, I would get them back new, presumably, right? A little 15-year upgrade for me.
Well, the run that you guys went on, 31-1 in the Big Sky Conference, Bobby Hawk's last 4 years. I know that led up to your junior year, but that one loss was the Weber State loss, but you were able to avenge it. But during those times, play well, don't play well, it didn't matter. You guys figured out a way to win. Why? What was the mindset of the team at that point that helped you guys finish games like you did?
Yeah, I think it was a lot what Hauck brought to the team. I mean, it was, I want to talk a little bit about relationship between a player and a coach. I don't really know if we had one. It was you knew what to expect. I mean, he wasn't somebody you joked around with. He wasn't somebody that you had fun with. And it was kind of I almost look back at it now as a father figure that was just, I mean, he expected things of you, and if you didn't do them, then ultimately you were either punished or something else happened. So I think kids these days have lost the mentality of we really as a team fought for each other. I mean, I remember one of the things I remember going out before a game is Bobby we'd say a prayer, and then he'd say, hey, I want you guys to look at each other and know that when you go out on that field, these are who you're fighting for. And I remember that because I used to just get this feeling in my stomach like, man, these guys are literally fighting for me, and I would do whatever I could for them. And it was just it was a team bonding. And you went out there, you didn't go out there for yourself. You went out there for your brothers and everybody around you. And you just kind of knew that that's what was going to happen. So
was there a level at which I wouldn't say rallied, quote unquote, against Bobby Hauck, but you knew that you were all in the same boat? You have the deist God here who's just separate from the world, and you guys only have each other, so to speak, in that respect, while you're playing for each other in this brotherhood, this bond that you have. But also he sort of made that such by the distance that he created.
He did. And I look at it now and going, I understand why we weren't friends. I mean, and back when you're in college, you're like, man, this guy hates me. He's a jerk. But now, you grow up, you're around, you have your own kids, and you start to realize that that's what you need as a coach. You need that guy that's got a little bit distance, but for some reason you fight for him. And he's great at that. And to have Bobby back, I think he's exactly what Missoula needed. Kids these days are. They're a little bit softer. Sorry, guys, but
there's no sorry about it.
You're not you guys. I'm talking to anybody just listening. I don't know if you feel older than I do, but
yeah. This is interesting too because Bobby Hauck, when he was first hired, I think was 37 years old.
Yeah, 37 or 38. Yep.
And so just into his 40s. I mean, he's a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's maybe a level with young coaches where they think they probably need some distance because it would be easy to be friends with your guys.
Yep.
And I wonder now, because I do think my impression of Bobby the second time around is he's certainly got all the edge that he's ever had. But I think there's a little more moment for a laugh, maybe a moment of, encouragement that maybe wasn't there the first time. Do you see some of that?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's years of coaching. It's hard to stay that level of intensity. I mean, he was an intense coach, and I mean, I don't know if you guys remember my first game, but it was against Cal Poly, and I mean, he pulled me out, he grabbed me by the helmet, and he was screaming in my face because I did some things wrong, and that's the Bobby that I remember. And I don't know if I see that. I think he's calmed down a little bit. I don't know if it's good or bad, but
well, he's got Brent Pease and Barry Sachs now, so he's just got henchmen to do the work that he was going to do before.
I tell you now, it don't matter how much you produced. I mean, Narcus Knight scored 17 touchdowns this year. He fumbled in the red zone. He was benched for the rest of the first half. So Bobby's still on it, like in that element for sure. I think Colt Anderson, he was in here a couple months ago, and he explained it great too. He said he's the common enemy that you want to die for still.
Absolutely.
And that, I think it's such a brilliant coaching tactic. I could talk about the psychological aspects of this forever because I think that it is so interesting. In college football across the country, you've seen everybody gravitate towards family style programs, and to a certain extent that's awesome. And I think especially when you're recruiting kids from really disadvantaged backgrounds that never had love in their lives, I think you can get guys to really sell out for you. And I don't think it's the wrong way to do it,
right?
But I mean, there was that great video when they had Coach Houck mic'd up during fall camp, and Josh Sandry, Jesse Sims, and Dante Olson are all sitting there stretching, and Houck's talking to him, and he says, "When are you guys graduating?" And they all say, "December, Coach, December." He goes, "Man, when you guys graduate, maybe we could be friends."
Yeah.
and then he looks at me and goes, "Nah." Says, acquaintances. And it's classic. And Coach Houck doesn't even pull any punches. When he got hired, he said, "Hey, I am here to be the coach of the Montana Grizzlies. You guys have all your friends. I hope you're friends with each other. We are not friends. I am your coach." And I think it's a great divide. I think it's something that's missing in America broadly across the board.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And that's what I said after I was done playing. And I'm like, all through my career, I was like, I don't know if this guy even likes me. But after, we went down and actually visited him down at UNLV. And, every time I see Bobby, it's I would say that we're good friends. And it's just such a different level of what I felt in college and what I feel now. So I definitely respect the hell out of Bobby, and I love what he's doing.
You, Chase Reynolds, in studio with us, former Grizz, graduated in 2010, went on to play in the NFL for 6 seasons. And Chase, when you finished your last year at the University of Montana, it was almost the climax of a decade and a half or 2 decades of the program at the University of Montana being built. Obviously, various national championships and stuff in there, but in terms of just utter dominance of the field, I mean, you were part of a run that was unparalleled, really, in college football, period. Since that time, we know what's happened. We know what's transpired, and there's a lot of explanations or portion strands as to why that's happened. But when you look at the program now, what do you see, both, in terms of the last, handful of years, maybe going back to Delaney, Bob Stitt, and now with Bobby Houck? Obviously, everybody thinks, and it is obviously trending up from a football standpoint, but from a program university, what do you see there, and what is different to you now, maybe still, than it was when you were there?
I think they're definitely trending up. We can all see that, and I think a lot to do with maybe when Stitt was here. I think it's Montana guys, and there's always something about the Montana guys that we had, and I've seen this through my NFL career. I look back on our college career, and it's kind of a cliche, but I would take tough guys over athletes, over talented athletes that go back to the saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But ultimately, that's what Montana is. I mean, we were a bunch of, and I don't consider myself a great athlete. In that 2008, 2009, 2010 season, just the Montana guys that were willing to fight for you, and that's what it was. They were tough, hard-nosed Montana boys that weren't athletic, but they would go out there and kick your butt if you lined up next to them. So I think I start to see that again, and I really think that's what was lost through those years where we see these guys. I mean, we see these offenses that were trying to score 60 points a game. But you look back at what we did, and we'd run the ball for 8 minutes straight, and that's something that wears teams out. You have to have guys that are physically, mentally ready to do that, and I don't see that these days here at the university.
Right. I want to talk about you for a minute. Some people make incremental progress. Maybe some people make incremental digression. I don't know, over the course of their life. But from a football standpoint, you go from Drummond to Division I football at the University of Montana. And then nationally, you talk about 1AA FCS football to the NFL. You made two giant leaps in your life in terms of the level at which you were playing. Mm-hmm. And I know, there's an entry point there where you worked your way in at the university, you worked your way into the league. But when did you know, coming out of Drummond, hey, I could play Division I football at the University of Montana? Great as you were, you were
probably scored 150
an all-timer, an all-time. No, I get it, but it's still different, right? When you're going and you're in Washington Grizzly Stadium, and then from that point when you're going and playing, in the NFL, how does that mentally? How do you deal with that?
You asked me when I knew I could play, and honestly, the real answer is never. I never, right? It's like
no, I get.
It's not. I never. I was like, what? I think I could play college football. It was happening, and it was like, I don't know if I can, but I'm going to go try. And then it was always a constant, even from college to the NFL. Every day it was like, well, I've got the spot now. I got to keep it.
Yeah.
So it was never. I was never satisfied, and I was always working to be better. So I guess in my mind, it was never. I never thought, oh, hey, I've made it, and I think that's really why I had success. Is as much as I want to say that I worked hard and I did all this, I did all that. Is I was just never satisfied. Mm-hmm. I always worked for my positions. Even when I started here at the university, I was always so close to losing my spot. So, it's I never got complacent, and I always just tried to be the best that I could be. And when I was in high school and it was the thought of college, it was kind of a whirlwind. I had no idea. Maybe I could go play at Carroll. Maybe I could go play at Tech. Maybe I could play at the university. And just kind of snowballed and never looked back and just kept grinding.
Coming from 8-man, they tried to get receiver the first year and a half or so. I remember covering the spring ball, and I had remembered watching you in high school, and I'm like, why are they doing this at receiver? Why don't they play this guy at running back? But then when you got your shot at running back, I think you rushed for like 175 yards against Northern Colorado, and that just parlayed into then having such a great couple years behind a great offensive line. But was there elements of frustration? How'd you get through the times when you go from multiple-time state champion, Class C superstar to sort of toiling on the roster and not getting any playing time?
Yeah, it was tough. The point where they're going to move you back to running back move you back to wide receiver, I guess for me it was I just said, well, okay, if I'm not going to be running back, then I'm going to be the best wide receiver. So I went out there and obviously wasn't even close to being a good wide receiver. But that was my mentality. If I wasn't going to be a running back, then I'll be the best wide receiver. And so I played wide receiver, worked at it, and then I had the opportunity to and really, I don't know if you guys know the story of why I got moved back to running back.
No.
It was, I don't know if you guys remember the Idaho State game where Coleman, he was the backup. I think Lex
Greg Coleman.
Yeah.
This is what a story this is. God, talk about just a confluence of events. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Lex was hurt. He had hurt his thumb. We got back from Idaho State. Coleman gets arrested coming off the buses. I want to say, I think Reggie Bradshaw was hurt. So it was really, we were down like 3 running backs. And I remember having a conversation with Mike Hudson, who was our coach, and said, hey, we're going to move you back to running back. Just because you know the plays, don't plan on playing, don't plan on anything. This is basically in case all the other running backs go down, you're going to get it.
Way to instill confidence.
I was like, geez, well, is this a thank you, or don't get my hopes up because you're, after the season you're moving back to running back, or moving back to wide receiver. So it really, the way it unfolded was by accident. It wasn't that they saw anything on the field and thought, well, let's move him back to running back. It was other people's mistakes, and I got moved back. And I remember that spring they didn't know what to do, and actually, I'm sorry, it was winter ball. And they kind of him-hawed on what they were going to do with me. And I think at that point I just said, you know what, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to get in the weight room. I'm going to gain some weight. And they're not going to be able to move me anywhere. So, and that's really where it all started. Winter ball, I remember a couple of coaches going, "Hey, we're noticing you." So it was just like, man, that's just keep going, keep grinding. And spring ball got here, and I just tried to punish people on the other side, and then that's just kind of snowballed in, and I was fighting for a spot, and that was kind of the start of it all.
Wow.
There's such an interesting motivational dynamic there too, because you mentioned the Montana guys, and I think one of the most underrated factors of those last couple of years of the Houck teams was the team had so much depth that Bobby was able to redshirt almost every guy, especially the Montana guys. So then you guys lived in the dorm, same floor, everybody's close, so you have these friendships. But then you also saw so many guys from Montana. I mean, all the guys from my class, all the guys from your class, every single one of them, not necessarily the most talented guy. Houck would bring in a transfer, or he'd bring in a super talented out-of-state guy, and he would hype them up. And they'd always not be the guy that started. It would always be Sean Lebsock in the middle, not the big hype transfer. It would always be Mike Farrader at wide receiver, not the Notre Dame and UCLA transfers. And I thought it was a fascinating motivational tactic, but it speaks to what you're talking about too, just the fact that you guys are willing to sell out for each other, and just that Montana identity as well.
It is. It holds a powerful punch. I mean, when you start talking about Montana pride, I mean, there's a lot of pride in Montana, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm back here. I mean, I love Montana. I love the people here and the way they just support, and it's just got a special feel. I've had the opportunity to go live in a couple different states, and there's just something about Montana.
When you go and have an opportunity to get signed by the Rams and go to camp, and I know you were there, and then I think waived, and then brought back in, and then eventually worked your way into a permanent year in, year out spot. We kind of see where that maybe came from, some of the work ethic and stuff like that. But also, I think a lot of NFL guys are so much about fit, about finding the right spot, and there's a lot of guys who can play that don't end up because they landed the wrong spot, and other guys that do land at the right spot. What was it like for you to go to St. Louis, obviously eventually migrating to L.A., and what was the fit like there for you?
When I first got there, I had no idea. I think they brought me in as a fullback / running back / special teams guy. And I think, you kind of hit on it. You gotta find a spot. How do I fit in here? How do I make it so they can't cut me? And that's what, one of my coaches told me that. He said, make it hard for them to get rid of you. Give them a reason to keep you around. And my reason to keep me around is I could do everything. I mean, if you needed somebody on defense, I'm in. I mean, I didn't even ask. I just jumped in. You need somebody to run wide receiver routes, I'm in. You need somebody to place hold. I mean, right. I learned how to long snap. I learned how to hold. I mean, anything. It was just like, and that was my reasoning is why do you keep me around? Because I can do everything that you ask. And I will do more. I'll play on the scout team. I'll play. I played DN. I mean, I went up against our starting offensive lineman when I'd get a DN. I'd jump in at nose tackle, and I just that was my niche.
Hey, Aaron, excuse me. Could you just take this one off?
I got this one. In fact, I probably showed him a couple moves.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's gave me credit for that yet.
This is what you're doing wrong with your hands, Donald. Let me help you out. Hey, I got to ask you this, too, because, the NFL, football occupies such an amazing spot in America, in Americana, and the NFL, the zenith of that sport. When you get into the league, people don't care. I mean, basically, if you're, Joe Montana, or if you're playing for the Rams, they go, "Oh my God, look at this is amazing." Now, you're married. You've been married a long time. You were married while you were in the NFL and the whole thing, kids and the whole deal. So you're not, doing everything that everybody's doing all the time. But what was it like to be a professional football player, which so very few people get to experience, but so very many people, laud and look up to?
Yeah, no, I think the one thing people don't really get is it's a job. I mean, as much as, it looks fame and fortune and looks all great on TV, I mean, the amount of work that's put in, and then also what you don't see is the amount of guys coming in each day. I mean, you don't see the guys getting cut. You don't see every Tuesday there's 10 guys over there warming up because they're going to work out for your spot. You don't see the conversations of, hey, if you don't make a play, we don't know what to do with you. So I guess for me it was, it was a different mentality. As I always was the guy on the bubble. I never got that feeling of, oh, I'm good. I don't have to work hard. I got my spot. So it was just a constant, I guess, fight of how do I stay on this roster? How do I stay alive? So, as much as people think, oh man, it's so great to be in the NFL, I was like, well, yes, it had its moments where you look around and go, man, this is just this is awesome. I can't believe that I'm here. But 360 days a year, it's keep your head down and try to stay employed. So that, to me, it was tough. I mean, there was moments where I was, on my way home. I mean, we were packing boxes, and I was cut for a month and didn't know what to do. And so those times, I mean, you never forget those. And those are the moments that, when things are going great, so it kind of kicks you in the back and goes, hey, don't forget why you're here and how you got here.
Well, whatever job you have out there in the world, you don't have to actually fight Alec Ogletree, okay? So think about that as like a nice part of what you don't do for a living.
Yeah.
What sometimes you do have to do when you're grinding it out in camp.
Mike Person, former Montana State Bobcats from Glendale. I think you guys have probably actually crossed paths.
Played.
Yep. I mean, he told a story on this exact show saying, man, when I got cut from the practice squad for what I thought was the last time, and I told my wife I was going to do it one more time, she said, well, you're going to be on your own then, buddy, because we're not moving for a fifth time. I'm good. I'm staying here. You can go chase whatever dreams. But from that element, just the family element, I mean, you have to have so much gratitude for your wife for letting you pursue this dream like you did when it is so uncertain.
I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she sat there and looked at me and go, what are we going to do? I mean, there was a moment we were in St. Louis. We had 2 kids. We were living in an apartment. We had $300, and I said, well, we have enough to get home, and we'll get home, and this is it. I'm done. I'd been cut for a month, I mentioned earlier, and we didn't know. We didn't have the answers, and she just said, I believe in you. You do what you need to do, and I applied for jobs in St. Louis and went and got a gym membership at Gold's Gym and had worked out, my time off, and she's given up so much for us and our family. I mean, people talk about the work that I put in and this and that. And I mean, to be somebody, to take care of our kids and sit there and depend on somebody and go, hey, what's the next step? I'm here for you. I'm here with you. She's an amazing woman. And, I'm so blessed to have her and stand beside me no matter what. And so special thanks to her.
Before we get you out of here, we got to ask you about Drummond, Montana, because I think Drummond is one of the awesome places in Montana.
Yeah.
And when you look at the football program, I mean, there's like 300 people in Drummond, Montana, and they produced 4 or 5 Division I guys last decade, and it's always been a hotbed.
Great little mill there, by the way. My dad takes his posts and polls from the solo logging operation over the Drummond. So shout out Drummond, Montana.
I love it. I mean, I know having Joe Big Mill having a bunch of kids definitely gives you some D1 talent because all of those guys, those guys were good enough to play.
Through.
Yeah, but those Drummond teams that you played on, I mean, that was the stuff of legend. They created the running clock in Class C high school because you guys were beating teams so bad. I remember driving up the freeway, going watching you guys on Saturday afternoons, and I mean, it was 50-0 at halftime most of the time. You almost never played in the second half of a game.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys outscored opponents something like 500-20 your senior year or something like that. I think the only time you guys
I don't know if they scored 20. But.
That's what I'm saying. I think you guys might have
gave up. It
was 9. Get your numbers sorted out. Single digits,
I truly think they didn't give up a touchdown till the state championship game. I think that's a real stat.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Just killing people. But how did that influence your life, though? Becoming from a working class community like that, so much pride in football. I mean, going to a Drummond game back then, at that moment in time, there was more guys dressing for Drummond high school games than Hellgate high school games. And there's a 300-person town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got 30 guys on the sidelines. So
I think there was a time where we had 45 guys out, 46 boys in high school.
Every kid in the high school was dressing for football.
And if he wasn't, he was up in the crow's nest filming. So.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I guess that small town, it's just, it was, we started to build something special. And it wasn't before. I mean, we had a couple good teams before I got there. And like I said, it would just come down to the kids. We had a good group. My class was a big class. I think we had 25 kids, and we were a big class to get through.
Right.
I think we had less than 100 kids in the high school. But it was kind of, we were all friends, and we were just out there having fun, and it just turned into, I think we all had summer jobs. And I contribute that to a lot of my success. It was just the ability to work at a young age. I mean, the accountability, the getting there on time, to having a job and seeing it through. I really look back and I go, small town guys that we had to work, right? And we had to drive ourselves to work, and we had to get there. We had to be there on time. We didn't have our parents, they had their own jobs. So, it was just that's kind of that small town. We were all good friends and happened to love football and had great coaches. Jim Oberweiser and J.C. Holland were a great group of guys, and they taught us, how to be dominant, but how to be respected and how to play the game the way it should be played.
Chase Reynolds in studio with us. It's the ESPN Roundtable. We're still a little ways away, but I think we're still within the time frame that I can ask this. Give me your best Cat Grizz memory.
I think it would have had to been, my favorite memory of the Cat Grizz game was it was 2008. We were dressed in the throwbacks.
Yep.
And for some reason, I remember we had a great drive at the end of it. I was running in the end zone, and I scored a touchdown, but I saw a kid standing there, and I went and tried to run him over in the end zone. And got up, and he got in my face, got a flag, and it was just that I think we just had like an 8-minute drive. So it was just the topping. But I remember that game to me is super special just because I remember the feeling of Bobby bringing them jerseys out. We didn't know. And it was, I want to say Friday night, where we always had a team meeting, and he's got this bag in front of him, and we're getting all hyped up, and we always watch a highlight video, and here he is, this bag, and he pulls out the old helmet and the old jersey, and it was just like, man, he's like, this is what we're wearing. And it was just a feeling of why, it was, I can't explain it. It was just so cool. So to be in that and out in that attire and in the game, it was just it was a great feeling. And I think we ran all over him and had a great game. So
it's awesome. For the record, the kid he's speaking about is a football player. It wasn't just somebody.
He wasn't in the stands?
Yeah. She ran over.
In fact, some guy the other day gave me a picture of that.
Really?
Yeah, it gave me a big poster, and he said, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where you ran in the end zone and hit the kid, and he got up, got my face, got a penalty, and he said I snapped a picture of it, and it's a pretty neat picture he gave to me the other day. So
that's awesome. Chase, this has been a really fun conversation. Thanks for being here and doing this. We're happy to have you in the Missoula community as you go through, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on and enjoyed it. And if you ever need me back, let me know.
See you tomorrow.
All right. What time?
Appreciate that, by the way, for Chase to come down and be the subject of our ESPN Roundtable. And again, that will air tomorrow. So he didn't even know it, but he is going to be with us tomorrow. Whether he likes it or not, we'll re-air that for you at noon on 102.9 ESPN Radio. And then it will be as part of the Big Sky Breakdown series at SkylineSportsMT.com. The ESPN Roundtable is brought to us by our friends over at Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls, if you're looking for a nice place on the south end of the community of Missoula, a place where you can, go find a spot to sit down, have a drink, have some dinner. It's a great spot near the corner of Brooks and Reserve Street, 3621 Brooks to be exact. A number of different rooms in there, indoor, outdoor. Okay, you don't want to be outside right now, but you want to see outside. They got a nice sort of enclosed gazebo area, which is very, very nice. You can also get yourself set up with a late night happy hour. How about that? Half price drinks, half price apps, and $3 draft beers. 18 rotating beer tap handles, a great new menu, a bunch of TVs, all with ESPN3, so you can watch all the games. We're getting close to the postseason of the FCS level. They'll have them all on there for you. Anything you want to watch, enjoy yourself at Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls, again, 3621 Brook Street, is Missoula's coolest hop spot. We'll wrap this thing up right after this.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Selway Armory on Black Friday is the one store you have to visit to save huge on guns, ammo, and accessories. Check out Selway Armory's insert in the Thanksgiving edition of the Missoulian before Black Friday to see all of the unbelievable inventory and savings they have in store for you. Put Selway Armory on your schedule and get there this Black Friday and Saturday for the sale of the year. Get to the store at 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6 behind IHOP on North Reserve. Selway Armory's Black Friday sale. Shop local, save money, shoot more.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's fall comfort food menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Whether you need energy to get you going or a little relaxation to wind you down, Town Pump has it. Red Bull Energy 12-ounce, 3 for $7. And Keystone 15-pack, $8.88. There's a Town Pump right down the road from you.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, yeah.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
High school semifinals coming up this weekend. A couple of top 10 football games. You kidding me? Does it get better than this? I don't think so. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. One day only. Saturday, December 7th. It's the 7th annual snow day. The biggest sales of the entire year. It happens for 6 hours, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, December 7th at Kurtz Polaris. Get there. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, wherever you get it. Oh, yes, I'm told not to tune. Okay, not to tune. Wherever you get your podcasts. I got you. That's where you can get the Tutel and Nuanez podcast. Rate it, subscribe to it, listen to it. We appreciate that. It's brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Also tonight, out the FCS Speculators podcast, episode 8 of the FCS Speculators, a betting podcast. If you're interested in the numbers, the numerology, the Vegas lines on FCS football, which are becoming more and more available, that's where we go talk about that stuff. Had a pretty good week last week. Okay. Hope to keep that going the last couple of weeks of the regular season and, of course, all the playoff games at the FCS level as well. So it's a fun podcast to do, and you can go listen to it beginning this evening when we release that as well. Hey, would you do me a favor personally? Would you do me a personal favor? Okay. You don't have to give me a car. If you want to give me a car, you can do that too. That would be fine. Or you could just follow on Instagram and Twitter at 1029ESPN. Okay? Go down there. We have been giving some stuff away. Want to remind everybody, tickets to the Grizzly-Weber State game, we got them for you on the Twitter and the Instagram. At 1029ESPN. Go follow right now. Hashtag ESPN GrizzPick. Okay, that's what you want to tag. Send us your best photo. Your best photo from the season. This is the last home game of the year for the Montana Grizzlies in the regular season. And so we want to see the fun that you've been having, tailgating, families, in the games, next to the games, walking around. Give us your best Grizz pick from the season and send it to at 1029 ESPN, either on Twitter or Instagram, and tag it hashtag ESPN Grizz pick. We will pick our 4 finalists, and tomorrow, pay attention on the social medias, we will upload our 4 top picks, their 4 finalists, as a poll, and you, the people, are going to vote on your favorite one. The winner getting a pair of tickets to go to the Grizzly-Weber State game on Saturday at Washington Grizzly Stadium. Going to be a great, great game, a fun atmosphere on Saturday afternoon. So make sure that you participate, and hey, maybe you win a couple of tickets and go to the thing. That'll be a lot of fun. Want to remind you this week, Jay Hill, the Weber State head coach, he's going to join us, be on with us tomorrow. Also, Anthony Knockreiner to get us all set for the weekend that is coming up in high school playoff football. I'm on the Knock On Sports Tonight coming up this evening, so if you're up there in the Kalispell area listening in, you can check into KEGZ up there in the Flathead area and in Kalispell, and we have a nice chat about all things football and even some basketball stuff as well. So go listen in there. We will also have, I believe, Dane Oliver on the show, the head coach of the Sentinel Spartans. Again, Sentinel hosting the first state semifinal game in, I don't know, well, certainly since 2000 for Sentinel. There's been, I don't know when the last game set. They were in the state semifinals 2 years ago, but it was a road game. So to host this one on Friday night, 7 o'clock against Bozeman, this is going to be a great game. These two teams did not match up during the year, Bozeman and Sentinel, but obviously a great matchup for you. 2 one-loss teams. Sentinel's only lost to Butte, who is the only unbeaten in the Class AA level, and the Butte Bulldogs, they're hosting Billings West. That game also at 7 o'clock. I love the symmetry of where they're playing these two games at the exact same time. And the Ranch Stadium in Butte, and then here at Missoula County Stadium in Missoula. It's going to be a really, really fun weekend there. Obviously, all the other ones too. But Dane Oliver, he's got those guys rolling. And Jackson Lee, future Grizz, you want to go watch him play? Friday night's your opportunity. You should go check this game out. If you're hanging out on Friday, get to the stadium. Go watch a state semifinal playoff game in Missoula in western Montana. 1983, I'm told. Okay, the last time that the Sentinel Spartans hosted a state semifinal. That's amazing. That's fantastic. So congratulations to Dane and the staff and the whole team over there at Sentinel, because they are, well, they're in the Final Four, and for crying out loud, they're the number 2 seed in the state hosting. I don't know if you watched last night. Oregon State playing Oklahoma. They're rolling right now, the Beavers men's basketball team. And Trace and Wayne Tinkle featured on Jay Billis 94 feet. You know, this has become like a thing, right? Bunch of one and doneers, bunch of NBA guys do walking the length of the floor with Jay Billis talking hoop and all that. Well, you get the father-son combo. A couple of Montana shout-outs yesterday. Obviously, Wayne Tinkle, the last coach prior to Travis DeCure at the University of Montana men's basketball. And then, how do you say it? Harvested Trace right out of Hellgate High School over there to go play for the Beavers. Probably good. He's doing a great job, though, here early in this season. I think Oregon State, certainly a team to watch. They've been playing really, really well and are rolling here through the first 3 games of the season. So good for them there. The YouTube channel, I want to remind you that you can go check us out on YouTube every single day. Plus, you can check that out if you would like the visual aid, which, I mean, why wouldn't you want the visual aid on the show? You can go watch that anytime as well. It doesn't just have to be live. And then I want to remind everybody, a week from Friday, the day before the Brawl of the Wild, we will be in Bozeman this year. The game at Bobcat Stadium, Saturday the 23rd. Coulter and I on the 22nd going to do our show from the Universal Athletic in Bozeman. We'll also have Up Top Clothing being a part of that, so we appreciate that. But we're really looking forward to being over there on Friday the 22nd and have a bunch of stuff for you on that one. The Seattle Seahawks, they're on a bye week this week. How about that? So this weekend, a Sunday doubleheader, which we will get you. I'll get you the list of those games. So the Seattle Seahawks, they were supposed to have 4 consecutive primetime games, and then in 2 weeks was going to be the next one that they're available for after the bye week. They got flexed out of it. The Seattle game, it got flexed out. I think they're playing the Eagles that day in favor of the Niners-Packers game, which hard to argue. I guess. I thought it was in favor of like a Bears-Eagles game. I was going, what's going on here? But I found it's 2 weeks away. So there you go. The Green Bay Packers is going to be your Sunday nighter in 2 weeks' time, and not the Seattle Seahawks. Nonetheless, the Seahawks, a couple of primetime games coming up as they run down the schedule. Boys and girls, have a wonderful evening. Thanks for being with Coulter and I today. We'll see you tomorrow. Tutel Nuanez, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season.